There is only one more speaker left, which is me. So I'm not going to introduce myself, but I do want to share with you why I'm here. Okay, I'm overcoming self-limiting beliefs by stood up on the stage with you. But also, I'm absolutely passionate about the empowerment of women, and it is definitely something that has shaped my career and my life. But I want to make it clear that for me, the empowerment of women is important in the context of balance. So it's all about trying to create balance in the world so that the world is more empowering for everybody, not just for women. And I know that we need to create that tipping point of change first. So, if you can just bear with me a little while, my talk today is about future-proof, and it's about the importance of gender balance. I think it's incredible, actually, that we even need to make a business case for women in leadership in the workplace. However, I am going to do that today. It's a bit of a shame that there isn't more men in the audience so that I can make that case for them, because I'm sure if you're here because you know that there should be more women leaders. So why are we still all talking about it? It's phenomenal, really. And I think that actually, going back to what I was saying about balance, that we all need to take responsibility for this. It isn't just about men not empowering women. It's that we've created a society where women are not able to be empowered. I believe that the root cause of this is that throughout history, if you look back, there's been a dominance of men making decisions in their masculine energy. And what I mean by that is a much more kind of assertive, aggressive energy than the feminine. So for anybody who knows about masculine and feminine energies, we all have them both in us in equal balance. But it's up to our social conditioning and how we've been brought up as to whether we feel like we can tap into either of them. So why is this? So I've already mentioned about gender conditioning. We've grown up in a society where we're mostly told that men should be men and women should be women. So as from birth, boys are told, don't cry, be tough. Girls are told to be more like girls, and that to demonstrate any kind of masculine energies can be unattractive. So that's going to have a knock-on effect in terms of how we then develop into adults and leaders. So we've created a society where women feel more like they have to become caregivers, and men are more the breadwinners. And what I mean by breadwinners are the people that are the men that actually go out and earn the money and bring it home. So why is that? Why have we actually related gender to breadwinning and caregiving? Because actually, I know that only women can give birth, that's obvious. But men can care for their children as much as women can. And there's so much that they can get out of that in terms of skills. So we've basically created this culture where men feel like they have to be more aggressive and controlling to be successful in leaders. And that makes women more compelled to be submissive. So this then creates the gender imbalance symptoms such as unequal pay, lack of paternity rights for men and women in terms of equality. So I also am wondering, when did breadwinning become more important than caregiving? So why do we put more emphasis on that? Why is bringing the money in more important than caring for our young? It's incredible, really. So going back to what I was saying before, I think it's really important that we need to create balance in the world. So we need to give not only women empowerment and opportunities in leadership, but also men in the world an opportunity to tap into their more feminine and empathetic side. If you think about it, it's as difficult for men as it can be for women sometimes in terms of finding that balance. So if we look at the word assertive, which is a very masculine energy, in a man, that can be demonstrated as being a great leader. In a woman, it can be called bossy. I mean, how many of you have been called bossy if you're assertive? Yeah, me too. If we think about the word empathetic, in a woman, that could be a great manager. So if you're empathetic, then you can be nurturing. You can empower and engage the people that you're working with. In a man, that can be seen as weak if you show any kind of sign of emotion or empathy or compassion in the workplace. So it can be as bad for men as it can be for women. And And I was really quite shocked to see this statistic about the fact that male suicide rate in the UAE is more than 3 times higher than female. I don't know if you knew that. But research demonstrates to us that actually, if you suppress your emotions, whether those emotions are compassion, empathy, or assertiveness, aggression, then actually it can cause mental illness and depression. So a lot of the men that I've been talking to around the world as we've been working on creating a leadership program have said that they don't like the cultures that they work in either. They feel really strongly that they can't talk to their male counterparts and say if they feel a bit upset or if they've had a not so great day. And likewise, they don't feel like they're able to take time off to go to soccer with their sons because it's seen as a sign of weakness almost, which is incredible. So I think that the point I'm making about balance is that actually we need to create empowering cultures for everybody so that men can be more empowered and make decisions in different ways too. So why is this an issue? I mean, obviously, in absolutely simple terms, we are destroying our world. And everywhere that I look around the world in terms of what's happening from a leadership, policy, and decision-making, nothing seems to be fundamentally changing it. There's lots of great conversations that are happening. There's a lot of great initiatives that are kicking off. You only have to search in Google to see that. But nothing's fundamentally changing how much the world is being destroyed. In fact, if anything, it's accelerating. So we need to make some kind of change happen. And I fundamentally believe that if the only change is bringing more feminine energies into decisions we're making, then the world will be a different place. So Albert Einstein's definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. This is basically what we're doing with our world. We're making decisions that are having an impact that's destroying the world, and then we're bringing together groups of men, mostly, to discuss those decisions, to rethink them, and to come up with new ideas. That is the definition of insanity, really. We're expecting change to happen by applying the same method. And it's not only that it's just men getting together to have those conversations, it's also that those men are only feeling like they can tap into their masculine energy. There's some research that demonstrates that men feel more able to tap into their whole self and to bring everything that they are to their conversations when there's even just one woman in the room, which I think says a lot, really. So just while we're talking about the numbers of men and women, and one of the other speakers mentioned about quotas and about positive discrimination, I'm really torn about quotas and how I feel about them. I mean, do they really work? On the one hand, as I said to you before in terms of the research, more feminine energy in the room, as in more women at the moment, because that's where it predominantly sits, means that men feel more able to be compassionate and empathetic. So that's great. But we also really run the risk of having the wrong person in the wrong job for the wrong reason, which is counterproductive and also positive discrimination. So in a way, if we're just using quotas and we don't have the proper support systems underneath, then we could potentially be setting women up to fail, which obviously isn't the answer. So for me, quotas can work, but they're very much sticking a plaster on the symptoms of imbalance rather than finding out how to heal the wound and then actually doing it. So action is a really important point for me. Okay, so going back to the whole making a business case for women in the workplace and women as leadership, the concept of future-proof is the ability to proactively create and anticipate market trends and the changes in the world. I deliver quite a lot of innovation programs around the world, and what I've realized is that it's changing at a phenomenal rate, and it continues to accelerate in terms of the changes that are happening. If you think about it, previously, the economy was led by manufacturing, which was essentially people building things and producing things. It's now really changed to a knowledge and a services-based economy, which requires a very, very different set of skills. So the reason why I want to mention that in terms of women and women's empowerment is twofold. First of all, the new skills that we need for this new kind of knowledge and service economy are listening, communicating, empathizing, emotional intelligence, customer insight, and have a guess about who's got those kind of qualities in abundance at the moment. It's mostly women because they are feminine energies, and because of the way that societal conditioning is happening, only women are really tapping into them. It's a sweeping statement, but in general. So that's one thing. And then another thing is, and I don't know if any of you knew this, but women are leading the economy. So 65% of global spending is led by women, which I think is an absolutely phenomenal amount. So if you are the leader in an organization and you don't have women on your leadership team or as part of your innovation and development team, then you must be missing out. Because guess who at the moment knows what women really want and what women desire? It's other women, for the most part. And also, women consumers control $20 trillion in consumer spending, which is just unbelievable. So, okay, so that aside, I mean, that's a huge business case in itself, that aside. Let's talk about women as human capital and embrace the concept of them being nurturers and caregivers, because there is so much that comes out of that that is really, really relevant to work and business and world change. So, okay, the first thing I want to talk about is sustainability. So if you think about women as nurturers and caregivers, mostly we'll be thinking about creating an environment that has stability and harmony and longevity. And who in an organization wouldn't want that? I mean, that is really looking to the long term. It's looking to future-proof your organization. Secondly, innovation. Now, if any of you have had to look after one or more of your own children or anybody else's children, then you'll know that women have a huge capacity to innovate and innovate spontaneously. So there's no time when you're looking after children to sit and have a strategy meeting about planning how you're going to be creative that afternoon. You just have to get on with it. And who knows what's going to happen in the next minute with a child. Also, if you have more than one that you're looking after, and they all have completely different demands and different likes, then you've got to be innovating and being agile and literally just every single second thinking on your feet, which, again, must be a huge asset for any organization. So in terms of agility as well, it's being able to make decisions in the moment. So you have two children that you're looking after, they're having a huge row, you don't know, you weren't there, you didn't hear what happened, and you've just got to decide what's the best thing to do at the moment, in that moment, trusting your instincts. So all of these are absolutely directly transferable into the workplace. And again, just going back to what I was saying about the spontaneity of it all, a lot of these things, if you break them down like innovation, organizations have 1 day, 2 day strategy meetings to plan how they're going to innovate in their organization. So imagine if you could get in the room 20 mothers who are engaged and empowered and really understand that they are creative and their imagination is powerful. I think that would be a really exciting and dynamic meeting, and I think that some of the things that come out of it would really, really surprise people, which is great. Okay, so in terms of social nurturers, I've already spoken about that a little bit. Connecting and communicating. Women love to talk. Every woman I know loves to talk. Every time I go and spend time with any women that I know, all we do is talk. We talk on the phone, we talk on Facebook, we message each other. For us, communication and constant communication is essential. And that's something that this new world is in requirement of. The constant contact with customers, the fact that there are no hiding places, the fact that if a customer wants an answer, they can just go on the World Wide Web and get it immediately, means that skill, that ability to connect is, again, a real asset. It's a human capital that at the moment sits predominantly with women. Again, a sweeping statement, but in general, it's true. I don't know if you knew this, but women rule the blogosphere. And you could say, okay, well, that's just chat. Actually, it's not. So Ariana Huffington, who created the Huffington Post, she is now seen as somebody who is a world leader. And what she says matters. People really listen across all industries. And, you know, she's now got this absolutely amazing organization, and she's not the only one. There's literally thousands of women out there who are making a lot of money by talking about the things that they're interested in, which is very interesting. So it's not just the feminine energies that women can tap into in terms of making this business case for women in leadership and the workplace. We also have the ability to tap into more masculine energies when we really need to. So if you think about Gadir's story and how she courageously came through what was a real ordeal and did it with courage and saw it as something really positive, then that demonstrates where the strength can come from when it really matters. In terms of selfless change, so how many of us have tried to go on diets or to exercise and have failed time and time again? And then you become pregnant and all of a sudden everything changes instantly. And it's like, what is the difference between the two? And it's the absolute belief and knowledge that you need to change. So we have that strength and we have that ability within us. And just to reiterate in terms of that, for me, again, it's about balance. So men and women equally have these abilities in terms of being able to tap into them, being able to be communicators, etc. It's the social conditioning that defines how much we're able to do that. And again, I think this makes a great case not just for women in the workplace, but for encouraging men to do more caregiving, which I'm sure lots of you out there would be glad of. So I think it's really important that we work together to create cultures that are empowering for everybody, where breadwinning and caregiving are equally acceptable to both genders, and they're not seen as something that's the caregiving, for example, just for the women. Okay, so how do we do it? So here's some ideas from me in terms of what we can do to go away from today and take away with us. So in terms of individuals, I truly believe that we are all agents of change, and it's so easy to sit back and say, what can I do, little old me? You know, how can I make a difference? And going back to what Jill was saying when she was doing her presentation about constantly pushing herself forwards and constantly having the sweaty palms, you know, at the moment, I'm saying yes to everything, including things like this, which, you know, are a bit of a stretch. But for me, it's because I am definitely really passionate about empowering women, and I want to demonstrate that we can do it. We can all do it ourselves as well as asking other people to. So we're all individual agents of change is the main message. Within that, educate and inspire your children without being gender specific. So if you think about it, anyone that has children out there, you are the primary educators of that child. Whatever you think about the empowerment of women starts with you in your home and how you behave with your children. There's an amazing brain study that was made last year, which was basically looking into how men and women's brains work differently. So it demonstrated that when men think, they think from left to right, I think it was, and women from backwards and forwards. So they were starkly different, but complementary. What was really interesting about that brain study for me is that up until the age of 14 years old, when they measured boys and girls, there was absolutely no difference. So the way that boys and girls thought up until the age of 14 was exactly the same. Now that's really interesting, and it usually sparks the nature-nurture debate. So are we talking about what's happened in the home, or has it actually been because the children have gone through puberty? Well, actually now there is an answer to that. So I don't know if any of you have heard of the concept of epigenetics, but it's the concept that we're all made up of genes, but we have the ability to switch that gene on or off based on the chemicals that we release within us. So the important thing isn't the gene, it's how we utilize that gene. So again, as primary caregivers, we have more influence over our children than we think we do. We can actually influence them to switch on or off genes to enable them to feel like they can tap into masculine and feminine, for example. Again, as an individual, release fears and self-limiting beliefs. Keep pushing yourself. Stand up and do the things that you think that other people should be doing to be empowered. If you think you may be a role model, then you probably are. So step up and be a role model for other women. Put your hand up and turn up. So I mention this because, again, a lot of us sit back and talk, and we think that would be a great idea. I think we should do that. We feel really passionately about it. If you feel passionately about something, do something about it. Don't just sit there and talk about it or expect other people to do it. Because that one thing that you do, if we are all at the center of our own ecosystem, and if we change, then everything around us changes, then who knows what that change that you do might do in terms of affecting everybody else around you. So in terms of organisations, I would really, really urge organisations to not go straight to the symptoms of gender inequality, which are things like equal pay. I mean, really, really important issues and things that do need to be addressed. But actually, if they go straight to the root cause, which is there are not enough women empowered in the organisation, if they bring women into the discussions about policies and procedures and paternity pay, etc., then actually it won't even be an issue, because women being involved in the conversation will make change happen. I recommend to start with quotas, even though I'm a little bit torn about them, because I do strongly feel like we need to create that tipping point at the moment in terms of creating ability for men to tap into their feminine energy by having women around. And the same goes the other way. We need to embed leadership and coaching. It's so important. It's absolutely no point in putting women in leadership roles if they don't have the support system there. What you're basically doing is setting them up to fail, and then you'll say, I told you so. I told you that they couldn't do it, to Dennis's point. So make sure that there is the coaching and leadership there, and also for the men as well. So if the organisation is going to fundamentally change and bring more women into leadership roles, then there's going to be some work that needs to happen with the men in the organisation as well. And then role models. So find role models that lead in a balanced way. I was so impressed with what Jill was saying, and I felt that she was a truly authentic role model that has the ability to tap into both of her leadership energies. But they are few and far between. So if you find some role models out there that are balanced, then make sure that the women in your organisation know about them. So how can we influence the global society? You know, I talked earlier on about the fact that we're destroying the world, which we are. You know, that's a huge thing for us to tackle. But again, each of us can affect a butterfly effective change if we do something about it. So the first place I would say to start with is Google. If you type empowering women or any of the things that I've talked about into Google, there are literally thousands and thousands of initiatives out there. So just again to say about put your hand up and turn up, if you see an initiative that resonates, if you see something that feels like it's important, find out about it, actually do something about it rather than just gaining the knowledge yourself. So what's the UAE doing? The UAE is actually leading the way to some extent in terms of the quotas of women in the workplace. And I know that this year, actually, there was a lot of focus on it. And Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid launched the UAE Gender Balance Council. I don't know if any of you have seen that, I'm sure you have. And he said, we in the UAE are keen to empower women and put them in the right positions. Therefore, I declare the forming of the UAE Gender Balance Council. So again, it's the start of something. It's an initiative that can move on to action. I don't know what the ability is for you to get involved with that, but I'm sure that there's similar things that you can do in your own sphere of influence or in your own organisations. So find out about it and get involved. And then in terms of right now, okay, so I think that these kind of conferences are amazing in terms of starting a conversation. But the magic for me really happens when we leave, when we take away everything that we've learned, and when we take away the emotion and the passion that we've galvanized in the room, and we do something about it. So I'm going to invite you to do something straight away today, and there'll be these cards waiting for you when you leave the room. And that is to actually sit for a moment and think about what you've learned from today and what you're actually going to take away in terms of an idea or an innovation, or something you're specifically going to do differently. And what we're going to do is for everybody who writes down their idea or their innovation, and don't forget to put your details on it so we know to contact you, we're going to enter you into a draw for a free place on a Women's Leadership Global Programme, which is starting in Dubai in May. So it's well worth just taking a moment to write that down. And as I say, don't forget to put your contact details on it so that we can get back to you. And this is really also, we're going to track these, so we'll record them all, and we'll come back to you and let you know, here are some of the things that came out of the Bold Talks women, and then potentially chase up with you afterwards and say, what have you done, and how's that gone? Yes, so just to reiterate, the magic happens when we leave. So don't just walk away from here thinking that was a great conference. Let's all commit to do something differently as a direct result. So thank you very much for your time. And as I say, I know that it's nearly lunchtime, so I bet you're all ready to leave out the door. I know Tamir wants to do some questions with me quickly. But thank you very much.